Greetings, friends. You are on Ruslan Belov's channel. Today we will provide a detailed breakdown of the situation in Ukraine as of February 4th, 2026. A great number of key and landmark events have occurred over the past 24 hours, so I suggest we skip the long introductions and get straight into the analysis. At this moment, absolutely every event, without exception, is linked in one way or another to the negotiation process that has already begun in the United Arab Emirates. The Russian delegation arrived in the country early this morning, followed shortly after by the Ukrainian side. Around noon, approximately at 12 p.m., Rustem Umerov officially confirmed that the negotiations had started. These talks are of exceptional importance, and there is every reason to believe they could be decisive. The impression is that the Russian Federation is placing an extremely high bet on this dialogue and expects an outcome that is as favorable as possible for its interests. Judging by current events, Moscow will strive to achieve maximum results today and tomorrow, potentially aiming for a full resolution of the conflict, provided that Ukraine meets all previously stated demands. Let's look back at the events that preceded the start of this negotiation process. As a reminder, yesterday the Russian Federation launched a massive missile strike across Ukraine, one of the most powerful since the beginning of the conflict. The primary targets were energy infrastructure facilities. An analysis of objective control footage, satellite imagery, and open-source data leads to the conclusion that several power plants sustained critical damage, and some of them have likely been completely decommissioned. Special attention should be paid to CHP-4, Thermal Power Plant 4, located in the eastern part of Kiev. According to open-source information, this facility was hit by at least 2 Iskander missiles. Sometime later, Mark Rutte was brought to the site of the destruction. Published footage shows him inspecting the ruins of the virtually destroyed station while being shown the scale of the damage. We can observe completely disabled facilities on the grounds of CHP-4. Effectively, all he could say to the Ukrainian side amounted to calls for patience, noting that winter is ending and spring is just around the corner. Additionally, he noted that real and tangible aid to Ukraine would only begin after a peace agreement is signed. Meanwhile, confirmed objective control footage already proves that CHP-4 sustained the maximum possible damage. It is also worth recalling that, taking into account the strikes carried out in January 2026, it is highly probable that CHP-6 has also been destroyed. We have repeatedly analyzed the relevant materials together, which clearly show the difference in the facility's condition before and after the strikes. According to this data, both the turbine hall and the boiler room of the station were destroyed. There is also objective control video footage clearly showing the extent of the damage CHP-6 sustained during the winter strikes of 2026. To provide an interim summary, out of the 3 Kiev power plants, 2 have effectively been destroyed. In this way, the Russian Federation is clearly seeking to strengthen its hand at the negotiations that began on February 4th and continue through February 5th. Furthermore, early this morning, Ukrainian monitoring resources reported flights of several Tu-22 strategic bombers along the border of the Chernihiv and Bryansk regions. Shortly after, reports began coming in regarding a series of powerful explosions in the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia regions. According to sources, a missile strike using Kar-22 supersonic missiles was carried out on an oil storage facility near the settlement of Hubinica. In the published footage, we can see the consequences of the strike that occurred today, February 4th. Reports are also coming in of a strike on the city of Zaporizhia. The exact location of the hit has not yet been established. However, sources claim that immediately after the attack, water service was lost in the city. This all appears to be an unambiguous signal from the Russian Federation, sent directly during the active negotiation process. The goal of such actions is obvious: to pressure the Ukrainian side into accepting Russian demands by the end of February 4th or 5th. There is an extremely high probability that if Ukraine refuses once again to meet Russian demands regarding territorial concessions, the size of its armed forces, and, most importantly, the presence of European troops on its territory after the signing of a peace agreement, a new massive strike could follow within the next 48 hours. Such a scenario could lead to consequences that are currently difficult to even predict. At the moment, the key issues remain troop numbers, the presence of a Western military contingent, and of course, the territorial aspect. These are the topics at the center of the discussion today. Representatives of the Russian government have repeatedly stated that the stationing of European or NATO troops on Ukrainian territory after the signing of a peace agreement is unacceptable for Russia and could be viewed as a violation of the agreements, which in turn could lead to a resumption of hostilities. All these issues are currently in an active stage of resolution, and we will continue to closely monitor further developments. Now, let's return to the situation inside Ukraine. Over the past night, the Russian Federation launched another, albeit smaller, strike using no fewer than 100 unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. This was reported this morning by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. The targets of the attacks were energy infrastructure facilities and logistics hubs. Extremely important footage also emerged today from the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region. It captures the aftermath of strikes on the Slobojanska, also known as Zmyivska, power plant. Analysis of satellite imagery and objective control video suggests that at least 4 Iskander missile strikes were carried out on this facility, primarily targeting the turbine hall. The exact status of the station remains unknown, but the mayor of Kharkiv stated almost immediately after the attack that one of the city's energy infrastructure facilities sustained serious damage. Another video arrived from the area of the Pechenihi Reservoir near the settlement of Yurchenkova. In these frames, one can see a temporary deployment point of AFU units, military equipment, and a HIMARS launcher. As soon as this launcher was detected, Russian forces immediately struck it, resulting in the system's destruction. It is also worth noting that according to open-source data, on the night of February 4th, the Ukrainian side launched a massive strike on the city of Belgorod. Published video recordings captured the moment of missile impacts, presumably from HIMARS or similar systems, on an energy infrastructure facility in the Belgorod region. Immediately after, a power outage occurred in the region. Some sources report a large number of incoming strikes on the city itself, including the use of multiple launch rocket systems, MLRS. In this context, the logic behind the appearance of the footage from the Kharkiv region showing the destruction of another HIMARS launcher becomes clear. Most likely, the Russian side maintained constant surveillance of the area and struck immediately upon detecting the target. Additionally, information is coming in regarding a massive strike by Russian forces on Odessa and the Odessa region. Since this morning, a significant amount of objective control video material has been published, documenting hits by missiles or drones on targets within the city limits. Currently, Odessa is experiencing serious disruptions in electricity, water, and heating supplies. At the moment, the intensity of the strikes has decreased slightly, and both sides have effectively paused in anticipation of the outcome of the negotiation process. Special attention should be given to another video that emerged from the northern part of the Sumy region. These frames record the Russian side's discovery of UAV launch sites. Several dozen, presumably around 30 or more, launches can be seen, along with an AFU mobile command post that appeared to be preparing for an operation. At that moment, the Russian side struck the area. Based on this, it can be assumed that strikes were planned not only against energy infrastructure in the Belgorod region. It is possible that the Ukrainian side was preparing a deep strike into Russian territory from the northern Sumy region, potentially toward Moscow. However, these plans were not realized, as a preemptive massive strike was carried out by Russia on the area. Now let's move to the situation directly along the line of contact. Today, we are receiving a large number of adjustments, which is generally a common occurrence on the eve of negotiations between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States of America. We'll start with the Zaporizhia direction. Here, Russian units have once again managed to improve their positions along the second line of defense, which runs along the railway between the settlements of Zaliznychne and Pokrovska. Russian sources report that as a result of combat operations, units of the Vostok, East grouping of forces have advanced significantly in the eastern Zaporizhia direction, particularly in the area of the settlement of Starokrainka. On the updated maps, you can see the changes that have occurred over the past 24 hours. According to information from the Ministry of Defense and the command of the Vostok Group, Russian forces have reached the railway and have effectively placed the settlement of Zaliznichne in a semi-encirclement. I recall that back in January and February, there were reports of Russian units establishing a foothold in the southern part of this settlement. Summarizing all available information in this direction, it can be stated with confidence that Zaliznichne is already in a state of semi-encirclement. This is an extremely important point on the path of the Russian troops' advance toward Orakov. In the event of its loss, there is a very high probability that the pace of the Russian armed forces' offensive in this sector of the front will increase substantially. Next, we move to the Dobropilya sector, from which a significant amount of important information has been arriving in recent hours. According to neutral and pro-Russian analysts, Russian units have managed to achieve a major breakthrough and effectively breached the defense in the southeastern part of the settlement of Grishino. Based on publications from various sources, corresponding changes have been made to the operational map. As recently as February 2nd, the line of control looked different. By the end of February 3, Russian units were able to improve their positions in the area of Stepnaya Street, and by the end of February 4, according to neutral and pro-Russian mappers, a significant advance was recorded in the area of Olympiyskaya Street. Currently, based on the up-to-date map configuration, the Russian army controls approximately 35% of the territory of Grishino. Fighting is currently ongoing for the northeastern and central parts of the settlement. Slightly to the northeast, in the area of the settlement of Rodinske, Russian forces have also been able to improve their tactical position. Advancement is noted in two directions at once. Toward the spoil tip, slag heap, of the Zaporizhia mine, located west of Rodinska, as well as in the direction of the settlement of Belitska. This is what the map changes looked like over the last 24 hours. The Ukrainian side published video materials recording strikes on the forward positions of Russian units in this sector. Analysis of these frames allows us to conclude that Russian forces managed to advance in the area of the railway, as well as along the tree lines leading toward Belitska and further toward the next mining facility, the Vodiana mine. Thus, the Russian army continues its active offensive. Apparently, one of the immediate objectives is to semi-encircle the Ukrainian garrison located on the Zaporizhia mine spoil tip and possibly in the western part of Rodinske. More video materials reflecting the course of the fighting will likely emerge from this direction in the near future. Moving on to the Konstantinovka direction, important changes have also been recorded here, specifically in the area of the settlement of Ilinka. As of February 3rd, the front line on the map looked different. Today, the first video materials published by the Ukrainian side appeared, indicating that Russian units managed to take control of the farmsteads located in the southwestern part of Ilinka. This suggests that the Russian army is beginning to consolidate its positions in this area, conducting engineering work on defenses and accumulating forces for further advancement in a northeasterly direction. The goal of this offensive appears to be a breakthrough of the armed forces of Ukraine's defenses in the territory of the so-called Konstantinovka citadel, located between Gromov and Kosmonavtov streets. The published footage also recorded another airstrike using FABs, high-explosive bombs, on this fortified area. During January and February, at least 10 video materials have already appeared, documenting strikes specifically on this zone. Now, let's shift to the Sloviansk sector of the front. Important adjustments are also noted in this direction, particularly in the areas of the settlements of Kriva Luka and Zakotne. This is how the map was corrected. I recall that just a few days ago, on February 1st, a number of experts reported that Russian units had managed to approach the strategic heights located along the Siversky Donetsk River, northeast of Kriva Luka. These are key dominant heights. Furthermore, according to updated data, Russian forces advanced in the area of two strongpoints, located south of the T-05-13 highway. Today, February 4th, video footage emerged capturing an episode of aerial drone combat. A Russian drone attacked a Ukrainian UAV that was heading to drop munitions on the positions of Russian units along the tree lines at the base of these heights. The footage shows that the Ukrainian side managed to carry out one drop, but then the Ukrainian drone was shot down and no further attacks followed. This episode occurred approximately in the indicated zone, suggesting that the Russian army is currently storming the heights in the Siversky Donetsk area from two directions, the east and the north. The Ukrainian side is attempting to hold its positions, actively using drones, including heavy ones, to strike the advancing units. In effect, one of the key battles for control of these strategic heights is currently unfolding. If the Ukrainian side loses them, the pace of the Russian army's advance toward the settlements of Mykolaiivka, the Sloviansk power plant, and the city of Sloviansk itself could increase sharply. Next, we shift slightly north to the Lyman direction, where Russian forces also continue their gradual advance. Today, new publications, analytical materials, and updated information appeared regarding the situation in the area of the settlement of Stavki. Based on this data, another map adjustment was made. Various mapping sources confirm the advance of Russian units in this sector. The Ukrainian side, in turn, published several video materials recording strikes on Russian assault groups in the southern part of the settlement. By cross-referencing all available data, reports, video recordings, and mapping changes, it can be concluded that the settlement of Stavki has likely finally come under the control of Russian units. Currently, the Russian army is beginning assault operations toward the strongpoints located along the T-05-26 highway. These are positions between the northern part of Lyman and the southern outskirts of Stavki. Should the Ukrainian side lose control over these strongpoints, the front line will be completely leveled from the northern to the southeastern part of the city. After that, holding Lyman will become extremely difficult for the AFU, and a gradual withdrawal toward the forest massifs and the Siversky Donetsk River, which divides this bridgehead into two parts, will likely begin. Regarding Kupiansk and the Kupiansk agglomeration, over the last 3 to 4 days, there have been increasing reports of a high concentration of Russian units in the triangle of the settlements of Kovsharivka, Plushkivka, and Novusinova. Russian forces are actively conducting offensive operations in the area of these strongpoints. Moreover, according to some analysts, Russian units have managed to improve their position in the area of the fortification network, located east of Kovsharivka. If the Ukrainian side loses control of these strongpoints, we can speak of the beginning of battles for the last fortified sector on the eastern bank of the Oskil River in the northern Kupiansk direction. As for the northern directions, local changes are also noted here. Today, adjustments were made east of the settlement of Myropilya. According to information arriving from various experts, Russian units managed to eliminate the salient located east of Myropilya, and a bridgehead is currently being prepared for a further offensive directly on the settlement itself. Additionally, let me remind you that active hostilities continue east of Krasnopilya. In this sector, the Russian side is utilizing not only infantry units, but also FPV drones and aviation. Thus, we are observing not only an increase in the pace of the offensive, but also an expansion of the range of weapons used to advance Russian forces. That is all from me for today, dear friends. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for watching the channel. Subscribe and hit the like button. All the best to you, and until next time.